Thank you very much, Dr. Amit Mitra. You are in Delhi, at a time when there's a lot of course, a lot of, political sort of jockeying going on as far as the big economic agenda in front of the parliament, the GST is concerned. You have maintained that TMC is in favor of GST in principle. Yes. But as they say, so the devil is in the detail. Yes. Now, clearly, one of the proposals that has come on over the last 48 hours is the revenue neutral rate of 18%. It's not officially announced, but everybody knows that is what is the rate going to be proposed. You are a consumption-based state, sir, mostly. How do you view the 18% revenue neutral rate which the Urban Subramaniam Committee has proposed?
I think, first of all, let me say that in 2009, as early as that, Mamata Banerjee in her manifesto of Trinamool Congress proposed that in principle we will support GST. Why? No party carried that GST in their manifesto to my knowledge.
Right, okay.
Why? People must understand the reasoning. Reasoning was that small and medium enterprises are hemmed in by taxes of 10-15 types. They cannot afford chartered accountancy firms of the highest order. They are sunk in this process. So our party has a huge base of many poor people, disadvantaged people, small and medium people who are entering the market to use the market to be able to grow.
Right.
So she said in 2009 in the manifesto of the party, we will support GST in principle.
Right. But the form that GST is developing now, sir?
The question before that was why. She said it for two reasons. One is, of course, what I've explained. Second is, behind that was her perception, and the government's today, once she has come to government, our government's perception is we must have protection of state revenues. Why is that so? Why are we saying that? Why are we saying that protection of the state's revenue must be included in the constitutional amendment? Why did we say that? The reason is that central sales tax of 4% was reduced to 2% by the central government to move towards GST. Immediately the state said, look, we are going to lose 2% of revenue.
That's right.
They said, no concern, no worry, we will compensate you fully. Came 2 years ago, letter from Finance Secretary of the government saying from henceforth you will get no compensation for GST.
Right. So that created a distrust.
This created a shock among the states. Shock in the revenues of the state and a sense of distrust of any administrative suggestion as against a constitutional protection. That we cannot accept GST without such a protection in the constitutional amendment.
Right.
I am happy to state that over the Empowered Committee of Finance Minister, of which I am a member, we debated this.
And it was one of the first things that TMC brought up, that the fact that it has to be part of the constitutional
We brought up in the Empowered Committee, I as a Finance Minister, as a member of that, that you have to insert this in the Constitution, A. B, it should be viable for at least 5 years, so that any state which loses revenue, full compensation by the central government.
Right.
And that the wording that TMC, Trinamool Congress, proposed in the Empowered Committee, I am glad to say that more or less that wording of protection of the state revenue has been introduced in the Constitution.
At one point in time, the revenue neutral rate was being proposed at somewhere over 25%. Now it's settling at about 18%. How do you view that specifically?
The principle of revenue neutrality are two. One is the tax GST that is created should be close to revenue neutrality so the state does not lose its revenue.
Right.
Now, therefore the one element of that. The second element, which is perhaps more important in this case because of constitutional change that is already protecting it, is that revenue neutral rate should not be such that it creates an incentive for small and medium businesses to avoid paying tax.
That's right.
If the cost of compliance is lower than cost of avoidance, then they will comply.
Right.
But if the cost of avoidance is such that it is too high a rate, let's appoint a chartered accountant and try and see how we can avoid paying taxes. Therefore, the rate should be such, we always said, business can bear, business can thrive, GDP can grow by 1 or 2%. At the same time, it won't be so low that states become dependent totally on the center for compensation of loss of revenue. So it should not be so high that it is people escape.
Right.
And should not be slow.
So where is 18% then, Dr. Mitra?
I don't think I want to talk about a percent right now, because there is a study first done by National Public Finance Institution, NP, National Public Finance
Policy,
Policy Institution,
right,
which initially came to Empowered Committee, which was phenomenally high. With the Empowered Committee said, and I took a very strong position, that this is not acceptable. There's no point introducing GST with these kinds of numbers.
Right.
So please redo the study and see where the chips fall.
Right.
I believe there's a new study given by NIFPA, National Institute of Public Finance and Policy.
Right.
We don't know what the numbers are.
Right.
The government is proposing numbers. I am talking about the principle.
Right.
Principle should be that it should not be so low that states lose revenue and center has to compensate a huge quantum to states.
But you do not want to say anything about the 18% specifically, whether it is meeting those criteria that you've laid out, sir. I
think main thing is let the numbers come to the Empowered Committee meeting.
Right.
It is the Empowered Committee of Finance Ministers of all states.
Right.
That must come to a consensus on the rates.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mitra, for your time. Thank you so much.
Very much.